All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take. Sharp and Shapiro, C-Win sitting in for Mr. J.D. Sharp. We were just talking about former Vice President Joe Biden calling a woman on the campaign trail a dog face, which is beyond inappropriate, whether he was joking or not, whether it's a quote from a movie or not. It's the reason why, in my personal opinion, he's not fit for office anymore, let alone the President of the United States. I also want to talk a little bit about someone else, in my opinion, who's not fit for office, and that would be Donald Trump. We remember Colonel Vindman, his heroic actions in war. He's got shrapnel in his body. This man is a war hero, period. And I have no reason, and nobody should have reason to believe that he did anything but tell the truth when he testified. Well, as you know, anybody who goes against the president along anything is going to be vilified. But this just brings it to a whole new level. And I'm going to praise Joe Biden for a great moment, I think, in the New Hampshire debate on Friday night. I want you to have a listen to this because, as you know, just hours earlier, Vindman was escorted out of the White House. Like
he should be pinning.
Go ahead.
He should be pinning a medal on Vindman and not on Rush Limbaugh. And I think what we should be doing now, I think we should all stand and give Colonel Vindman a show of how much we supported him. Stand up and clap for Vindman. Get up there. Who we are. That's who we are.
See, I agree with Joe Biden 150%. This shouldn't be about politics. This should be about treating people with respect. Now, it'd be one thing if Vindman broke the law. It'd be one thing if there was evidence to support the fact that Vindman lied. There's no evidence of that. Again, let me repeat this. He has shrapnel in his body. He is a hero, and he took the oath. He took it seriously. But because he testified and said some things that may not look good for the president of the United States, what does the president do? Immediately fires the guy, escorts him out of the White House, and treats him like he was some intern that didn't get the fax papers together. I mean, that's to me, this is just utterly disgusting. It's a joke, Chris.
I was, as a
veteran,
as somebody
yes,
who was in the military, I was 100% disgusted in what took place on Friday. Now, and look, I'm not somebody who's some Bible thumper. I'm not someone who's out here, Mr. Religious by any stretch of the imagination, okay? I happen to be a Presbyterian, but I'm not someone who is, every Sunday going to church. I'm not someone who's touting religion out there as something that is, that I hang on my shoulder big time. But what he said at the prayer breakfast also about Nancy Pelosi and about Mitt Romney was beyond disgusting. And then, of course, what ended up being 3 people getting fired on Friday. When you talk about Ambassador Sondland, who was appointed by President Trump, okay, from Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, and then his brother, an attorney, who had absolutely nothing to do whatsoever with the impeachment process.
I want to read some
being fired as well, too. It was beyond the pale.
So, I agree. Chris, I want to read some quotes of Donald Trump when asked about this firing. He said, in regards to Vindman, he said, "Actually, I don't know him, never spoke to him or met him. I don't believe." Sounds like Parnas, huh? He also went on to say he claimed that Vindman reported contents of my perfect calls incorrectly. By the way, there's not one person who would agree that call was perfect. That is a politician. And if they say that, they're wrong. The president also attacked Vindman's work performance, claiming he was giving a horrendous report by his superior, that he had problems with judgment and leaking information. Vindman's attorney criticized the tweets from Trump, saying the comments are obviously false. It is unbelievable. Vindman's twin brother, I believe his name is Yevgeny Vindman. He's a National Security Council attorney, was also fired suddenly and with no explanation, despite over 2 decades of loyal service to the country. It just makes no sense. Vindman's obviously, as I've said before, a decorated veteran, born in the Ukraine, escorted out of the White House by security, and told his services were no longer needed. I don't care if you're a Donald Trump supporter or not. This is disgusting. It's outrageous. It's ridiculous. I could use every name in the book. This is Donald Trump's playbook. If you do anything, whether you're telling the truth or not, whether you're a war hero or not, you do anything to wrong him, he's going to come after you in the most despicable way. And what's the best example I could use? 2 words, folks. John McCain. Here's a man that was a prisoner of war for 5 years. They got into it politically. They didn't agree with policy. So what does Donald Trump do? He says, I don't respect him because he was captured. Donald Trump, utterly disgusting and embarrassing in every shape of the word. And like I said, I don't care whether you're a Donald Trump supporter or not. You should be disgusted by this. This is America, okay? This isn't Kim Jong-un, North Korea. You say something about Kim Jong-un, he kills you, right? That's what dictatorship is, right? Donald Trump is playing along those paths of dictatorship. You do anything that Donald Trump doesn't like that might be wrong in his eyes, even though it's the truth, you're fired. You're fired. Goodbye. He thinks this is a reality show. It's not the reality show, Mr. President. This is a man who is respected among Republicans and Democrats. He's done the same thing with Bolton. He's done the same thing with anybody that has wronged him in any way, shape, or form.
And Brian, let me kind of expand on that. There are clowns out there, whether it's on social media or Donald Trump's talking heads, that have been coming on the air and saying, well, he had to be let go because there's no way that Lieutenant Colonel Vindman and President Trump could exist together. You couldn't, it's not necessarily a policy thing, but you can't have somebody that doesn't have your best interest and have your back in the White House with you. And then you spring this on them. You say, okay, well, if that's your thought process, how about this? What do you think about the perp walk? Okay. What about you think about leading out a decorated military veteran who sacrificed for his country, has shrapnel in his body, and you walk him out of the White House like he's a criminal, okay? And his brother, too, by the way. Mm-hmm. And then basically a matter of minutes later, you recall Sondland, your ambassador, and the only reasoning that any reasonable person can have for that is because he went. They basically told the truth under oath. They were subpoenaed, okay, in the impeachment process. And by the way, because they told the truth, they are relieved of their duties. They are reassigned or flat out and out fired, okay? It's an absolute joke. You just read off, Brian, a bunch of quotes by the President of the United States. 99.9% of what you read off was complete BS. Yeah. Well, okay? It was absolute garbage. And look, I understand it's par for the course right now in America that our President of the United States is not afraid to just flat out lie left and right, and we just accept it. But we can't. This cannot be the norm, people. Okay? Look. It cannot be what we expect out of our commander-in-chief.
Look, the president can't even spell the truth.
I could give it is beyond. It's beyond this. 16,000 plus. Are you kidding me?
I could give you a gazillion examples of it. We actually give examples to back our
we do it all the time
on the show. The number to call, by the way, if you want to be a part of the conversation, 702-257-5396. Again, that number to call, 257-5396. This is my frustration, too, with Democrats, though, because you have a front runner now, although appears to be one of the front runners in Pete Buttigieg, who I respect tremendously, who I think is a good guy. I think he's very articulate. He's very intelligent. I like Pete Buttigieg, and I've said that for months now. I think he's a young up and comer in the Democratic Party. Very similar in some ways to Barack Obama. Very young, very energetic. Obama just had this special way to resonate with people. I see a part of that in Pete Buttigieg, but there's something that they're doing to Pete Buttigieg in the Democratic Party right now that I don't like very much. So Mayor Pete was grilled by ABC's Lindsay Davis on race. This was a part of the New Hampshire debate on Friday night. I want you to have a listen to this, and then we'll take some calls and we'll talk about it. Here it is. Do we have that audio?
I suppose if he wants to come as a non-conservative and debate an issue with us,
that's
maybe
the wrong audio. We got the wrong audio there.
That's your guy, Matt Schlapp, right
there. That's definitely
not what we're talking about.
That's definitely not the right audio.
But to the gist of it, right, Brian? We're talking about Pete Buttigieg. There is an issue because of his relationship, particularly with the African American community in his own city, right? In South Bend, there have been issues. There was obviously the disagreement. A lot of people with how things were handled with his police chief in that city. And so there's a lot of animosity, I think is a good word, when we talk about African Americans and Pete Buttigieg. And without question, we all understand how important the African American vote is going to be. It was in 2016, and it's going to be in 2020. And so these are fair questions, I think, to ask Pete Buttigieg, right,
I think it's completely fair. So I want to play this audio. This is Mayor Pete being grilled by ABC's Lindsay Davis on race. This was in the debate on Friday night. Have a listen to this.
Mayor Buttigieg, under your leadership as mayor, a black resident in South Bend, Indiana, was 4 times more likely to be arrested for marijuana possession than a white resident. Now, that racial disparity is higher than the rest of the state. In fact, it's higher than the rest of the nation, and that disparity increased in South Bend after you took office. When talking about the problem on national terms, you've called it, quote, evidence of systemic racism. But you were mayor for 8 years, so weren't you, in effect, the head of the system? And how do you explain that increase in black arrests under your leadership?
Well, the reality is, on my watch, drug arrests in South Bend were lower than the national average, and specifically to marijuana, lower than in Indiana. But there is no question that systemic racism has penetrated to every level of our system, and my city was not immune. I took a lot of heat for discussing systemic racism with my own police department, but we've got to confront the fact that there is no escaping how this is part of all of our policies.
So people on the left and the right are going after Mayor Pete because more African Americans were fired in his district where he was the mayor than in many other districts in Indiana. Let me be very clear on this one.
Well, no, because they were arrested at a higher rate for marijuana issues.
Let me be very clear on this. Can it be possible that some of these African Americans that are committing these crimes should maybe take responsibility for what they did? Mayor Pete can't get into everyone's head. Isn't it possible that it just might be fair to say that it's not Mayor Pete's fault? Now, he has admitted that the police chief was fired who happened to be an African American, and he's admitted over the weekend that maybe he would have handled that situation differently and he should have sat down with him. Chris, we were talking a little bit about that off the air. But I'm sorry, but I am not going to sit here and blame Mayor Pete because there happens to be more African Americans in his community that might be breaking laws than other districts. I think that is completely ridiculous. When are people just going to start taking responsibility for their own actions? It's the same thing, and I'm going to make an analogy to this. Look at what's going on in Chicago right now, right? Who do you blame for all the gang violence in Chicago? There are neighborhoods in Chicago where police won't even go into those areas because they're in fear of their own safety. You're going to blame the mayor for that? There are certain situations where you can blame a politician. There are certain situations where you can go after a politician and say, you're not doing enough to help this, or this. In this specific situation, to blame Mayor Pete for the fact that 4 times more African Americans are getting arrested for selling marijuana, might it just be possible that more African Americans are selling marijuana than white people, and it's got absolutely nothing to do with the mayor? It's such a ridiculous argument, and I'm tired of hearing it. Your thoughts on that? 702-257-5396. We're talking about that. We're talking about the way Vindman was escorted out of the White House. We're taking your phone calls, that as well, and Joe Biden. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's start off with Paul. Paul, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, how's it going, Brian?
Good. What's on your mind?
Hey, well, I don't know a whole lot about the mayor, but I like what I've seen. And I'm one of those Donald Trump supporters, but I do like, what I've heard him say and everything. And as far as the, the responsibility that you brought up, that's the problem throughout the entire country is we can't seem to get equal because every time we do, if something doesn't go in that direction, then it's racism is blamed.
No, I agree. Paul, can I ask you something? That's interesting what you just said because you're a Trump supporter, right? And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And
I'm actually a supporter of the United States of America.
Well, of course.
What I do like about President Trump, I don't like his demeanor.
Yes, I understand.
I do like some of the policies that he's put in place.
I respect, Paul, I respect that. I do. But let me ask you this. It's interesting because yet you are a Trump supporter, but you respect Pete Buttigieg and you like him. Do you think there's any chance that somebody like yourself or many Republicans out there that support Donald Trump could go to the other side and vote for Pete Buttigieg? Do you think that's a possibility?
He said the right thing, yeah.
Really? So would you consider that yourself?
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
Well, I'm a Trump supporter because I support the country. And in my opinion, a lot of the things that Trump has done, I like.
Right.
I don't like a lot of the things he says and the way he says them. But my thing is, you hear a lot of Nevadans complain about Californians coming here, and I understand that 100% because I'm from California, and the difference is we were overrun by people from other countries.
Right.
And they changed our way of life, and just like the Californians are changing the Nevadans' way of life. So
yeah, I don't know. I don't necessarily know if you want to use that type of terminology. Overrun. We are overrun in this country.
Maybe not
That's
overrun, but let's say I don't know. I don't know why.
Because
it doesn't matter, but you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, and it's
I don't
just
want to shoot
Paul,
anybody, but I also don't want my way of life to change.
I get what you're saying, Paul. Let me ask you this, though. Since you are a Trump supporter, what do you think about the way Vindman was escorted out of the White House and treated?
Well, here's my question on that is I don't pay real close attention to every detail of all the issues, but was Vindman one of the ones that was hearing the phone call while somebody else was talking to Trump, or was he actually there with Trump while the conversation was going on?
He overheard the call. He was listening, and he's a war hero. He's got shrapnel in his body. He testified under oath.
He's Ukrainian-American.
I'm also a veteran, so I get all that. But at the same time, okay, so I don't know the names of the gentleman that's on the show with you, and of course you're not the president of the United States, but if he heard somebody that was having a phone call with you,
right,
and was pretty sure he heard something that he didn't like, and he reported to somebody, would you want to work with him? Would you feel like he would have your best interest at heart? You know what I'm saying? Now, if the colonel would have been in the room while the conversation was going on, then whatever he said, he heard firsthand.
All right, Paul,
if you're trying to make it look, here's the thing. Look, I understand the question. If you're trying to assert that Colonel Vindman in any way was being disingenuous or not honest about what he thought,
I'm saying maybe he didn't hear the whole conversation.
No, he did.
He testified under oath in an impeachment trial to what it is that he heard and what it is that was what was involved in the phone call. I don't know what else he has to do. I don't know what else people have to understand about that.
Listen, Paul, I appreciate your service to this country. I appreciate your phone call. That is the definition of a dictatorship. If you're not loyal to me, basically what Trump is saying is, I want you to lie for me, because if you tell the truth and say something that might make me look bad, I'm going to escort you out of the White House. That is exactly what a dictatorship looks like, and it's wrong. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, is 257-5396. Let's go to Brady. Brady, you're next up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen. The problem that we have here with Vindman and your buddy John McShane there is not everybody likes
hold on a second. No. You know what? I always...
He starts out with the problem with Vindman, as Vindman was perp walked out of the White House.
Hold on.
And I'm very happy that he was escorted.
All right. Well, you know what I'm not... You know what I'm not happy about?
Everything.
Let me tell you something that I'm not happy about. John McCain, by the way, his name is McCain, not McShane, had more heroism in his fingernail than you have in your entire body and probably 8 generations of your family. So don't you call into this show and say John McShane. You are shameful and you are an embarrassment, Brady. If you want to make, I don't care where your family. Really. So would you call them shameful? Were any members of your family prisoners of war for 5 years? Answer the question. Answer the question. Was anyone in your family? Was anybody in your family a prisoner of war for 5 years? Yes or no?
No.
Exactly. Get the hell off this show, you jerk.
Brady, you got to take a better line, okay? You got to take a better approach. That's just atrocious, man. Look, I understand you come on and you're a frequent caller to the show. This show and many other shows, by the way. But you're gonna get blasted, and rightfully so, if you're gonna come with a bunch of crap like that. It was just was a horrendous phone call by every measure that you can make.
It's amazing that there are people out there that will describe John McCain, say his name, John McShane.
And he starts, and Brian, I pointed it out, right? He started the phone call with, the problem with Vindman was this, and this. Get out of here with that.
It's ridiculous. Number to call, 702-257-5396. Again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation, 257-5396. Let's go to Carl. Carl, you're next up on the Vegas Take.
Hi, guys. Real quick, before I give you my point, I want to compliment you. Your show is an oasis of intelligence and truth in a desert of hypocrisy and lies. So,
well, I appreciate that.
Thanks, Carl.
Okay.
I think you're 100% on point there.
Checks in the mail.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I hope it's big enough to please me. Anyway,
it probably won't be.
Okay. Listen, as far as the Biden thing goes.
Yes, sir.
Both Biden and Trump have what's called, which I've diagnosed myself just by listening to them. As a psychologist, you don't have to put hands on a person, like take their pulse and give them an MRI or whatever.
Right.
You can tell by their expressions, their actions, and their words what's going on. They both have early onset dementia.
Yeah, that's interesting. You might be right. You might be right.
Well, I am right.
Yeah, and I would say Trump is probably up there too. Listen, here's what I think, Carl. I think, and by the way, Carl, always good to hear from you. I appreciate the phone call. Here's what I think. I personally believe that we need someone under the age of 70, okay, in the White House. We need younger, fresher people. Now, with that being said, it doesn't mean I would support Ocasio-Cortez for president, okay? Yes, you need some experience in there. I would not vote for her. I wouldn't vote for Ilhan Omar, who was, by the way, just in Vegas yesterday. We need younger blood. I'm talking about both sides of the party. I'm not just, listen, a guy like Matt Gaetz is a complete fool. But I'm saying we need people running for office, and that's why that are younger, and that's why I say Pete Buttigieg is a breath of fresh air to an extent. He's not corrupted yet anyway. Number to call, 702-257-5396. We're talking about the Vindman firing, escorted out of the White House. We're talking about people going after Pete Buttigieg because African-Americans are more likely to sell weed in his district and get arrested than white people, which is absurd. Let's go to Jim. Jim, you're next up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. What's on your mind?
I would have run Vindman and his brother out of the White House.
Why?
If I was Donald, in a heartbeat.
Why?
Run them out.
Tell me why.
Well, I don't think, first of all, I don't think you can work with him after he goes and testifies like he did, even though I think he told the truth as he perceived it. But Donald and his constituency have another view of the truth. So you just can't.
Okay, whoa, stop right. Hey, whoa. Hey, are you Kellyanne Conway? Are you Kellyanne Conway? Are you trying to tell me there's alternative facts out there, guy? Is that what you're trying to say? There's another set of facts? Is that your take?
No, I'm not saying they're an alternate set of facts. Okay. I'm saying they're the facts as Donald and his constituency look at it.
Jim, can I ask you?
His constituency is Donald Trump,
guys.
Jim, let me ask.
What you guys have to understand.
What I
You're
have
on
to
the
understand.
radio.
Yeah.
You guys banter back and forth. There's two sides to every story.
Okay, so Jim, can I ask you a question then? What would you say to the Republicans out there that are understanding that, yes, what he did was absolutely wrong. It wasn't a perfect phone call, and at minimum, it was completely inappropriate. Do they have the story wrong as well?
A lot of them do. A lot of them do.
So you think this phone call was perfect?
A lot of them listen to Schiff. Is that his name?
His name is Schiff.
Adam Schiff.
Yes.
Adam Schiff.
And they were convinced that in fact, was the case.
So do you think the phone call was perfect?
But the larger group, Romney excluded, felt that Donald, in fact, had some thoughts that they agreed with.
Okay, so for the record,
his side of the story.
All right, so for the record, you think the phone call was perfect, I would imagine, and for the record, you're okay with Vindman, who is a war hero, who has shrapnel in his body, who risked his life for this country, and everyone. There's no evidence to support the fact that he lied about anything. He was under oath and he told the truth. So you're completely okay with escorting him out of the White House, fired, being treated like an intern who
he wasn't fired.
Yeah, I got it. Yes, he's reassigned. But the way that you have no problem with the way he was treated then.
And I am perfectly fine with him being escorted out of the White House.
Jim, Jim, let me just be
That's a horrible viewpoint.
Jim, let me just be clear on this. I'd be perfectly fine with someone escorting you out of the country.
Exactly.
702-257-5396. Let's go to Wayne. Wayne, you're next up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
I just want to call in and touch bases about Buttigieg. I'm African-American, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
And I'm an older voter, so I've been around for a while, and I know a lot of the traditional issues that we care about. And one reason why, and they're not talking about this in the press today, the one thing that African-Americans are standing back and watching with Pete Buttigieg is his non-traditional marriage. So they're going to have to start talking about that and addressing that and him speaking to that more prevalently, because if not, they are not going to vote for him.
Okay, let me ask you a question, and I'm just asking you this, Wayne, okay? Would you rather have a Pete Buttigieg who is married to a man, or would you rather have a president of the United States who's straight that's cheated on 3 of his ex-wives constantly? Which would you rather have in office?
2 of his ex-wives.
Well, you know what? I could speak for a lot of them. When I say a lot of them African-Americans, I could say that they would say, I want none of that. I want neither one. But me particularly, what I would do, what I'm doing, is standing back and listening. I'm listening and I'm watching. Just like we did with Barack Obama when he started out from Iowa, we were not going to vote for him. That was a total myth that black folks will vote for people because of color, which is proven.
Well, yeah, I don't like that either. I'm going to tell you right now, Wayne, and by the way, Wayne, I'm sorry, I'm up against a hard break. I got to go. Please call back anytime. I'm not gay. I'm straight. I'm telling you right now, Pete Buttigieg has my vote. I could care less whether he likes men or women, who he's attracted to. I don't care. I believe he's a good person. We're going to get more of your calls on the other side of the break. Tim, Dave, Chuck, you guys are up next. Take a quick break. Be back right after this. You are listening to The Vegas Take.